To go fast, swimmers need to move their arms fast and move really far with each stroke. Some swimmers can move their arms fast, some swimmers can get long, but very few can make both happen at the same time. Let's change that. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. In this video, I'm going to go through one of my favorite strategies to help swimmers learn how to create length and speed. If swimmers want to go fast, they need to be able to stay long at really high stroke rates. However, with certain strategies, we can make it more likely that swimmers learn to do just that. Let's find out how. Length equals speed, and speed is a simple equation of stroke rate times stroke length, and improvements in either lead to improvements in speed. However, stroke length is almost always the key for long-term improvement. Over time, stroke length is going to improve more than stroke rate. When you look at elite swimmers and when you look at non-elite swimmers, the stroke rates are pretty much the same. However, the differences in stroke length are often dramatic. And so we have to really focus on helping swimmers get longer while still maintaining their stroke rate, as opposed to helping swimmers learn how to move their arms faster. So length is the key. And if you look at progressions of athletes from the junior national level to the Olympic level, what changes is not their stroke rate, but their stroke length. The stroke rates tend to be very consistent. And so it's stroke length that we have to target. But it's not just about swimming long and slow. They have to get long at high stroke rates. So that is the problem that we have to solve. And of course, if solving that problem was as simple as me just taking 2 minutes to explain it, we wouldn't be here discussing that problem. It's definitely easier said than done. And like I said earlier, a lot of swimmers can swim long at slow speeds. A lot of swimmers can move their arms fast. Few can swim long with high stroke rates. It's a skill that has to be improved, and there are 2 ways to do it. You can focus on different aspects of skill that indirectly influence length at speed, such as trying to improve someone's pull, working on their head position, working on their timing, all valid approaches. Or you can see length at speed as its own skill and directly target that. Let's take a look at one of my favorite strategies to get the job done. And that strategy is alternating between length and speed. And so there's a couple different ways to do it. So the first option is having the swimmers go odd as few strokes as possible, and then the evens go as fast as possible. Or if you want to put length at speed under more pressure, you can have them go the odds as few strokes as possible, and then on the evens you give them X strokes back and then go as fast as possible. So for instance, on the first one, it's take as few strokes as possible and then go as fast as possible. And then option 2, it's take as few strokes as possible. Let's say it's 10, and then you can add 2 strokes back or 3 strokes back or 4 strokes back, and then they have to go as fast as possible at that stroke count. So if it's odd as few as possible, evens add 4 strokes and go as fast as possible. It could go 10 and then 14. And so even on the even ones, they're trying to swim long and fast. And so the second option puts a little bit more pressure on the length at speed component. In both cases, the idea is by having swimmers alternate between staying really long and going really fast, that length is going to start to bleed into the speed. It might not happen today, it might not happen next week, it might not happen in a month, but over a year, over multiple years, and that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about long-term progression, those skills are going to start to show up at higher and higher speeds. And so it allows them to practice length and speed at the same set versus only practicing one. And with this approach, we're not as worried about how they achieve those outcomes. We just care that they do. And so if they can learn to take fewer strokes and they can learn to get more and more speed back at lower and lower stroke counts, that means they're improving. We don't necessarily care how they're making it happen, but we're putting them under pressure to make it happen. We're more concerned about the outcome as opposed to the process. And of course, in other sets, you can directly work on the skills that allow swimmers to create length and speed, and that way you can create the best of both worlds. What I particularly like about option number 2 is that you can emphasize either length or speed depending on how many strokes you give them back, and that can be a really powerful tool to influence this critical skill. Now we understand the concept, how can we make it even better? Well, you can use it across a range of different intensities. So you can use it with speed work, you can use it with endurance work, you can use it with racing work. All that changes is the set structure. 25s are going to be different than 200s, which is going to be different than 50s, which is going to be different than 500s, which is going to be different than 100s. And depending on how many strokes you give them, how much rest you give them, that's going to determine how fast they're going to go. And so it can be effective regardless of the training you're using. For that speed, for that condition, you're helping them get length and speed. You can also use training aids. Do it with resistance. They're going to have to create more propulsion with the arms and the legs. Use a buoy. They got to do all the work with the arms. With fins, they're going to be doing it even faster, and it's going to be driven by the legs. You can also have them use different hand postures, have them close their fist, have them hold their paddles upside down. That's going to force them to create length and speed with different hand positions. That's going to improve their skill. You can certainly do this with drills as well to put specific skills under pressure and help them learn how to create length using certain skills. So in any context, in any situation, this strategy can be used to help swimmers learn to develop more length and more speed at the same time. And all that's going to change is the specific context in which the set is performed. So we'll take a look at 3 different sets here to demonstrate these concepts in 3 different contexts. The first set, they're going to go 1200s freestyle. The odds are as few strokes as possible. Evens are add 2 strokes and go as fast as possible. This is more of an aerobic set. Rest periods are going to be relatively low. So if they take 10 strokes on the odds, they get 12 on the evens. They're trying to go as fast as they can, but within that context. It's still not going to be super fast, but they're still working on that skill of length and speed, regardless of the type of set it is. Next set, they're going to go 3 rounds through. We're adding the drill here to put a lot more pressure on the upper body. So they're going to go odds as few strokes as possible. Evens, add 2 strokes per 25 and go as fast as possible. So if they're 10 on the odds, the evens, they get 12. And then by round, we'll go 3 strokes and 4 strokes on the evens. So 13, 14 strokes. That's going to allow them to create more speed. And the pressure is going to be almost entirely on the upper body, the skill of creating propulsion with the arms, because the legs aren't really there. And so we're using the drill to put more pressure on a specific skill, but still creating length at speed. Next set, they're going to go 3 rounds again, 825s. The odds are as few strokes as possible, but they have to maintain their rhythm. So taking 2 strokes of butterflies, technically as few strokes as possible, but that's not really helping anybody. And then the evens are as fast as possible. Round 1's with a parachute, round 2 is with fins, round 3 is with no equipment. And so that's going to have a very different feel. It's going to be a very different challenge with those different training aids. And again, that's going to challenge swimmers in different ways, help them learn how to create length at speed in a different context. This set is more speed-based than the others, so they're going to be going even faster. And they're doing that with both the resistance and the overspeed and regular swimming to challenge them even further. If you want another great strategy to help swimmers learn how to build length at speed, check out the video below.